Have you ever reached something you thought would finally make you feel settled, only to realize you were already looking for that next thing? Maybe it's a job, or a title, or a vehicle. Maybe it's a phone, a house, a degree, a goal, money. Maybe it's just a version of yourself you thought you'd finally become. And for a moment, it felt great. But then something strange happened. The feeling faded. The finish line moved, and suddenly, the thing you thought would make you feel complete became a starting line for something else. One more goal, one more improvement, one more purchase. No, one more accomplishment. Wait, one more idea. Oh, let's just move that horizon and make it one more horizon. And maybe somewhere underneath all of that, there was a question you didn't even realize you were asking. When is it enough? Welcome back to From Hollow to Holy. I'm your host, Justin, and this is Shadows, a series focused on exposing the distractions, fears, patterns, and tactics that quietly pull us away from peace, truth, purpose, and ultimately from God. In previous episodes, we've talked about fear, distraction, and comparison. But today, I want to talk about something that can hide underneath all three of those. The moving horizon. That place out ahead of us where we think peace is just still waiting, where we think contentment is right there, where we think we finally feel like we're going to be enough when we get there. But somehow, every single time we get there, the horizon moves again. See, a recent example for me is when I became the program director and lecturer for my pharmacy tech program. When I got that position, I thought, this is it. Not in a prideful way, but in a relieved way. I thought this job was going to give me everything I was looking for. It gave me respect, not necessarily from anyone, but me. It was internal. I wanted to see myself differently. I'd worked as a pharmacy technician, and even though that work mattered, there was always this quiet part of me that wondered if I had taken the easy way. I didn't move forward and go to pharmacy school to become a pharmacist. And I did what a lot of people I feel like do. I wrestled with the internal voice that says, you're not enough, dude. You're not done. You got to keep pushing. So when I became the program director and started teaching, I think part of me hoped that title would finally quiet that inner voice. I thought, well, now I feel legitimate. I feel settled and content. I mean, I was closer to home. I had that better schedule. The paycheck was steady. And I had the opportunity to still be creative in my own way. See, I had that chance to build something meaningful, teach real world skills, and help students walk into a pharmacy with confidence. And those are good things. None of that is bad. And that's important. The job was a blessing, the opportunity, a blessing. And the students, regardless of how tough they can be, are still a blessing. But what I didn't realize at first was that I was asking the job to give me something deeper than just employment. I was asking it to give me identity. I was asking it to make me feel like I was enough. That's a lot of weight to put on a job. See, at first, I was focused on teaching and keeping up with the changes that naturally come with education and with the pharmacy industry. But then I started seeing more. I started thinking, well, what if I change the program from 2 semesters to 1? Then I thought, well, wait, what if I make 2 options? One for students who want to get trained and get working quickly, and another for students who want to take it further. That led me to start thinking about pathways. Well, how do I do this? What if students could start as a pharmacy tech and continue building on towards pharmacy school to become a pharmacist? What if we created bridges for rural students? What if we created something that helps students see possibilities they didn't even know existed? Again, none of those ideas are bad. In fact, I believe all of them to be really good ideas, good passion. But during this last spring semester, while I was putting some final touches on part of my program updates, I was thinking through what I wanted to build next. And I had this moment where I realized, Justin, you're already chasing the next idea. I have reached that proverbial horizon that I thought would settle me, and then I pushed it. And I didn't just push it. I mean, I freaking kicked it across the football field. Every time I found a solution, I found a way to add more to it. And that's when I started recognizing a pattern. This wasn't just happening in my current job. See, this has been happening for a really long time. When I worked at my previous employment at a pharmacy called A&W Pharmacy, I was given responsibility and freedom to help find ways for this small business to grow. And I loved it. I thrived in that environment. I loved building workflows, solving problems. I loved looking at something and asking, how can this be better or work smoother? How can I help more people? And honestly, I still think part of me is that's a gift. A desire to build is not a problem. The desire to improve, again, not the problem. A desire to create pathways and opportunities and help students, not a problem. But a gift without discipline can become a burden. And for me, that's where the shadow starts to show up. Because somewhere along the way, the builder in me can start believing if I build enough, maybe, just maybe, I'll finally feel like I am enough. That's the dangerous part. Not building, not improving or creating, but needing the next thing to prove my worth. And then there's burnout. Everyone has had some form of burnout. Burnout for me starts small. It doesn't always begin with some massive crisis. Sometimes it just starts with just too many tasks. A few things that are left unfinished that I forgot to finish and now have come up because I forgot. Maybe a few things completed, but they need refinement. See, a few ideas that are good ideas, but they keep turning into just more work. And then the invisible pressure starts showing up. No one's standing over me saying, hey, Justin, you got to keep working. But something inside me keeps saying, you're not done. This still needs fixed here. Oh, wait, you're behind. You're not caught up, dude. You got to catch up. You're so far behind. You need to do more. This could be better. It's not perfect. It's not great. Wait, we need to make these changes. And before I know it, I'm not just working. Now I'm chasing. And that chasing starts to cost something. What typically happens is it leads to resentment. Most of the time at work, it leads to doom scrolling. For health reasons, it leads to me staying up late and scrolling my phone. So I lose sleep, which causes me to be further behind, which causes me to feel more burned out. Sometimes it'll lead to me looking for huge career changes because I'm just so irritable. And irritability. But overall, mentally, I'm exhausted. And that mental exhaustion for me looks like sitting down to work, working for a few hours, and then feeling completely overwhelmed. See, an 8-hour day can feel like 16 hours when your mind is always trying to catch up. And I get stuck in this mode where even when I'm making progress, I still feel days behind. But that's what moving the horizon does to us. It makes progress feel like failure because there's always something else out ahead. Another idea, another fix, another goal, just another version, whether it's of yourself or what you're trying to do, that you and me are trying to reach. And eventually, for me, I have to ask, when is it enough, Justin? And when I look back, I see this pattern in other parts of my life too. Sometimes it's big things. Sometimes it's simple things. I mean, I can remember if I just had the right tools, I could build that bookshelf without needing any instructions. That's a dangerous thought, by the way, because instructions exist for people like me. But I also remember thinking, if I had the right bike, I could instantly be a better rider. If I had the right car or truck, I'd instantly have more friends, more confidence, maybe even get that girl back when I was in high school. And honestly, a lot of us have some version of that. If I had the right phone, if I had that money, if I had that house, that body, that title, that calling, maybe it's spiritual. And if I had that spiritual experience or if I had that testimony, I'd be set, satisfied, confident, and I would be enough. But the problem sneaks in. That horizon, man, it just keeps moving. The phone becomes normal. Your truck becomes normal or old. The job becomes mundane. The title doesn't feel or hit the same as it did. Your accomplishments, out of date. They become normalized. And we start looking for that next thing to give us the feeling that the last thing couldn't keep giving us. And this is where I think the tactic really becomes clear. See, I personally don't think Satan always has to tempt me or us with obvious bad things. Sometimes he just takes those good desires and twists them into this restless dissatisfaction, a desire to grow or improve, a desire to serve or to build or provide or become better. Those are great desires. But if we're not careful, those good desires can become infected with a lie. The lie that peace is always somewhere else. Contentment is always one more achievement away. Or the lie that worth is something we earn by just continually doing more. Or one of my favorites is the lie that we cannot rest until everything is fixed, finished, polished, improved, or proven. That's the shadow. It doesn't always look like rebellion. Sometimes it does look like productivity. It looks like ambition or improvement, and it even sometimes looks like service. But underneath it, our soul is exhausted because we're asking the next thing to give us only what God can give us: peace, identity, comfort, worth. This also makes me think about gluttony. Most of the time when we hear that word, we think about food. Too much eating or too much indulgence or too much consumption. But I wonder if gluttony can show up in other ways too, like more success or more validation or more recognition, more productivity, improvement, more proof, more achievement, more stuff, more. And the scary part is that our culture often rewards this. We praise people for never stopping. We admire people who are always building, hustling, or chasing. And again, I'm not saying that work is bad, because work is not bad. Ambition is not bad. Growth is not bad. But if more is never enough, then eventually more becomes a master. And that's a hard thing to admit. Sometimes the thing controlling us isn't obviously sinful. Sometimes it's a good thing that we have stopped governing. There's a scripture in Philippians that has been sitting with me as I've thought about this. See, Paul writes, I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. That phrase stands out to me. I have learned contentment was not automatic. See, it was learned. And I think that matters because contentment does not come naturally to everyone. It does not come naturally to me. My natural instinct is to look at something and ask, how can it be better? How can I improve? What's next? Again, more, 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 more. I've got that mindset, right? What can I change? What can I make it? Is it really the best it can be? But again, Paul teaches that contentment is something we learn, not because we stop caring, not because we stop growing or stop trying, but because we learn where peace actually comes from. Peace does not come from finally reaching that horizon. Peace comes from Christ being with us where we are. That doesn't mean we never move forward. It means we stop believing that forward is the only place where peace can exist. And I'll be honest, I struggle to define what enough looks like, especially for me. And part of me even worries that if I stop chasing that next thing, I'll become lazy, or I'll fall behind, or I'm wasting potential, or, I stop becoming what I'm supposed to become. But maybe enough doesn't mean I stop building. Maybe enough doesn't mean I quit improving or that I stop dreaming. Maybe enough means I stop needing to be the next thing to prove my worth. Maybe enough means I can say, this is good, before immediately asking, what's next? Maybe enough means I can improve my program at work without the program needing to tell me I'm legitimate. Maybe enough means I can be grateful here and still be faithful for what comes next. That's the balance I'm trying to learn, because I don't think God is asking me to bury the builder part of me. What I think he's doing is I think he's asking me to surrender it and to let him govern it. Let him teach me how to build from peace instead of building for peace. And when I really think about it, the blessing I'm looking for here is comfort, not applause, not a bigger title, not another accomplishment, but comfort. The comfort that comes knowing that I'm on the right path. The comfort when I look around and feel everybody else's anxieties and when they're uncomfortable. Comfort that what I have done is enough for this moment. And the big one that's been sitting with me lately is comfort that if I allow this season of my life to be enough, God will work with me and work everything out. That's hard for me because I love to fix. I don't just like to fix things. I love to fix things. I love to build. I love to move. I love to improve. But sometimes faith is not moving the horizon further. Sometimes faith is standing where God has already brought you and saying, thank you. This is good. I'm here. I can receive this and I can trust you with what comes next. So maybe the question for all of us is, where have I moved the horizon? Where have I told myself I'll finally be happy when, or I'll finally be confident when? Maybe it's I'll finally feel enough when, or I'll finally be at peace when. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's a job. Maybe it's fitness or a relationship or a house or title, or it's a spiritual growth. Or maybe it's something good that has slowly become restless. Because the next thing cannot carry that weight. A job can be a blessing. A title can be a blessing. A goal can be a blessing. But none of those things can become the source of our worth. Only Christ carries that. Look, I still love building and I still love improving things. I still love creating pathways and helping students see what the possibilities are for them. And I don't think that part of me is bad, but I'm learning that even good gifts need discipline. I'm learning that if I don't let God teach me contentment, I can turn every blessing into another starting line. I can reach a horizon and immediately move it a football field away. And maybe you've done that too. Maybe you've reached things you once prayed for, only to forget to pause and receive the blessings. Maybe you're standing in the middle of something younger you would have been amazed by. But current you is already chasing that next thing. So maybe this week is a chance for you and I to stop for a moment and ask, Lord, what have you already given me that I haven't fully received? Maybe it's a chance to say, this is good. This is enough for this moment. I can be grateful here and trust you, Lord, with what comes next. Because the answer to the moving horizon is that it's not to stop walking. Maybe the answer is to stop believing that peace only exists somewhere ahead. Christ is not only waiting at the next milestone. He is here in this moment, in this season, in this unfinished, imperfect, still growing version of us. And maybe enough begins when we stop long enough to recognize that. Because not everything is finished. Not every problem is solved or going to be solved. And not every dream has been reached. But because God has already been present in the journey, He was there when we were chasing, when we were building, when we're tired, and especially when we're burned out. He was there when we reached the thing we thought would finally settle us. And He was still there when we realized our hearts were already looking for that next horizon. So maybe this week the invitation is simple. Pause long enough to notice what God has already done. Look at something in your life that you once prayed for, a job, relationship, a child, a home, a chance to begin again, a skill, a testimony, a moment of healing, maybe a door that opened, a burden that became lighter. And before you ask, wait, what's next? Take a moment just to say thank you. This is good. This is enough for this moment. I am grateful here, and I trust you with what comes next. If this episode made you think of someone who's exhausted, someone who's always chasing, someone who feels like they are constantly trying to catch up, maybe share it with them. Not because this conversation has all the answer, but because sometimes people just need to know that they're not the only ones that feel this way. Sometimes they need to know that they're not failing just because they're tired. They just need to be reminded that the next thing will never carry the weight only Christ is meant to carry. So wherever you are right now, whether you're chasing something, building something, waiting for something, or wondering why the finish line keeps moving, I hope you remember this. You can keep growing without despising where you are. You can keep building without burning yourself down. And you can keep moving forward without believing peace only exists somewhere ahead. Because Christ is not only at the horizon, He is here. And maybe that is where enough begins. Thanks for listening to From Hollow to Holy. If this episode helped you, or if you know someone who might need this conversation, I'd be grateful if you'd share it with them. And as always, keep moving forward, keep your eyes on Christ, and I will see you guys next time.